And here we go. Flyers game day. Brian Smith, Jason Myrtetus. Flyers Penguins tonight. And Bri, let's start here. They have to prevent Crosby from getting his 500th NHL goal. They are the team that he has scored the most goals against in his NHL career, 49. They'll try and prevent 500 though tonight.
I feel like we have to deal with this stuff a lot. I don't know why that is. If it's just in my head or if he actually constantly comes up with these milestones against the Flyers. It's just a little bit, feels like it happens more than it probably does. But it's that's if you have nothing else that goes right tonight, it'd be nice if they can do that. Flyers have had some success in recent years in kind of keeping Crosby a little bit less all over the place than he used to be. Just from the standpoint of, he averages 1.5 points per game over his career, but I feel like in the last couple of years it hasn't quite been that prevalent. But it's something that would be very nice if he just got it against another team.
How about the fact that he's played against the Flyers in his 17 years, 78 times, almost a full NHL season?
That's just obviously a reflection of the schedule. Back in before, he's what you call it, his career lines right up with the post lockout era, right? He was a rookie, 05-06, so he is kind of the benchmark star player for that era. And before that, you would you play other teams more than you do now. They would have a little bit of an unbalanced schedule, and you go in even in the early 90s before that expansion. You were playing teams all over the place all the time, so you didn't play a ton of your games against the same team just because you played. You still had an 82, 88, at least an 80 game schedule going back to the early 80s.
And up to 84 at one point.
Yeah, and you only had, 25 opponents to play it against. So you would see other teams more than you did. But it's I guess that just tells you how old we all are, right?
Yeah.
He's been around long enough to play that many games against the Flyers.
I'm trying to see. I mean, the Kraken, he did score against the Kraken. He's got a goal and an assist in 2 games against the Kraken. So I imagine he scored against Vegas, and he has. So he has scored on all 31 other teams in the NHL. But against the Flyers, 78 games, 49 goals, 68 assists, 117 points, a +13, and he's done it averaging over 20 minutes of ice time, 20 minutes and 37 seconds. It's amazing what he's been as a player. I mean, you look at his points every year; he's well over a point per game player every season.
And this is also, considering all the time that he's missed, right? I mean, I don't know offhand exactly how many games he's missed, but he has missed a not insignificant amount. So that's the thing too. When you look at some of his numbers, we've been comparing him kind of to Claude Giroux in some aspects of Giroux's career over the last 7 years or so, and Giroux's right there with him on some things like power play points and things like that, but Crosby's done it in about 60 fewer games. This is going back to 12-13 when Giroux became the captain. So, I mean, you can only imagine that, what kind of numbers he might have if, he had ended up being basically as durable as Claude has been. I mean, he has missed very few games in his career, and Crosby has been around a little bit longer, but because of the concussion issues mostly, I think he's missed chunks, big enough chunks of time to affect those numbers.
Yeah, before this season, I'm looking it up. He missed over 200 games. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's 3 seasons.
Right? Yeah, I mean that's crazy.
I mean, that's that's again, you look at the numbers and where he might be if he hadn't missed half of those games. I mean, if he had one more
wear and tear
of points to him, it's and again, it's hard to say whether I would imagine that because he was such a key part of the offense and, was the guy everybody's trying to shut down, you probably end up with more concussions than you would if you're in Giroux's position. Giroux has never really been the player on the Flyers that everybody's had to shut down in order to survive. You know what I mean? It's like he's been consistent and all that, but he's always been part of an overall scoring group, whereas Crosby's been the guy, and it's kind of the same kind of thing as Eric Lindros. I mean, that was a different era, obviously, but being as big as he was, everybody would throw everything they could at him, and that ended up causing him some issues too, obviously.
There's an interesting stat. Crosby is he has 2 of the 6 100-point seasons in the history of the NHL by a teenager. He had his first in his rookie year when he was 18. He had 102 points that year. Then as a 19-year-old, he had 120. We know his birthday is 8/4 or 8/4 or 8/7 rather. Hence the number 87. Right. He's born on August 7th. And in 87 to boot. Yeah. So he has 2 of the 6 100-point seasons as a rookie. I'm going to put you to the test. Who are the other ones? There is nobody else on the list that has 2 spots. So there's 5 or 4 other players.
Well, I would imagine Gretzky's on there, right?
Yeah. He had 137 points as a 19-year-old, 51 goals, 86 assists.
So Gretzky, is Lemieux there?
Mm-hmm.
And how many am I looking for? 5 total?
4 total.
4 total.
So you got 2 more. This is a tough one. I'm putting you really on the spot here. And Lemieux and Gretzky are kind of chalk. That's obvious.
Yeah. Did McDavid do it?
No.
Okay.
Well, one of them was a former Flyer at one point. Just passed away recently.
I should be able to figure that one out.
And Winnipeg Jet.
Yeah, it's I can see the guy. I can't remember his name.
Dale Hawerchuk at 18 had 103 points.
How about that? I would not have guessed that one.
Yeah, and I would have never got this one. For the LA Kings in 1987-88, Jimmy Carson. Remember when he came in? 55 goals, 52 assists, 107 as a 19-year-old. Fascinating.
I would have never realized that he was ever that productive. He's a little before my time, but yeah, that's remarkable that he was able to do that. And it's kind of, I just brought up the numbers to look at him. I mean, you talk about a drop off. Wow. He, I don't know if there was an injury involved. Maybe it looks like he missed most of, parts of a season or two there, but he never got more than 69 points ever again. And he never played a full season. That was the only time he ever played a full season. He played, another, he got traded a lot. So my numbers I'm looking at might be a little bit off.
Was he in Detroit at one point, Bri?
He was in Detroit for 4 years.
Yeah, that's where I remember him.
It looks like he might have gotten traded off of the Oilers 90 championship team to Detroit.
That's the championship without Gretzky.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's probably unfortunate for him. He got back there with LA in 93, but that's been about it. So he's a former Detroit Viper.
Jimmy Carson. I wasn't expecting Jimmy Carson conversation on the pregame.
No.
Happened.
But the thing too with Crosby is if you think back to those first couple of years, that was a significant change in the rule book those couple of years, right? The coming out of the lockout, the crackdown on hooking and clutching and grabbing and stuff like that. And, a lot of teams in those first couple of seasons were still adjusting to how to cope with that. The Flyers among them. Flyers did not handle that switch well at all. They went from
they took the red line out too, didn't they?
They did. Just in terms of the 2-line pass. And the Flyers had built their history on being a physical team and a hard team to play against and being able to just throw all the money they wanted and get whatever player they wanted. And 2 of those things were taken away from them in one fell swoop with that lockout year. And that's kind of what took them into the 06-07 season being so bad. They had to really kind of shift gears and retool out of that 06-07 into the 07-08 season that we went to the conference final, of course. But, that was that was part of it. So, he definitely, I'm sure he took advantage of it. There are a lot of other, a lot of other players that took advantage of it. Danny Briere being one of them.
Yep.
Here's an interesting stat, just as I'm scrolling through crap. That first season, 102 points for Crosby.
Yeah.
110 penalty minutes.
Really?
He has never had more than 76 cents, and he hasn't had more than 50 in about the last 10 years. 9-10, he had 71 penalty minutes, and since then he hasn't had more than 46. So obviously, I mean, you remember that run-in he had with Darian Hatcher in 2005 that forever made him a villain in the eyes of Flyers fans. I mean, obviously he spent a lot of that season kind of standing up for himself, and then a lot of the next few years, and then from there his game kind of changed. So
yeah, when you come in and you have all the hype that was surrounding him, there were a lot of people that were going to take a run at him and see if he was what they were claiming he was.
Right.
And he was, when he was younger, he was a bit of a, pardon the word, but a bit of a bitch and a baby.
Yeah,
a lot of whining and
he definitely he definitely matured as he went along. I mean, when
you see him now walking through the hallway at the building, and he couldn't be more amenable.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I didn't meet him until 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. So well after that, and he's a fantastic individual now. Not that he wasn't back then. He might have just, I don't know if he maybe was misunderstood or
he was immature.
Yeah, didn't handle the physical aspect of it as well. People going after him and things like that. That might be that might be something that when he looks back on it, he might have wished he dealt with it a little bit differently. But that's
maybe he can mention that in his Hall of Fame speech.
Yeah.
Well, enough about Crosby. He's a great player. I know it's fashionable here to hate him, but I mean, he is a great player. You got to give him the stick taps. He deserves it. But hopefully tonight he does not get number 50 against the Flyers and number 500 for his career. This game tonight, too, Flyers trying to avoid a 3-game losing skid, Bri. And you want to kind of do this and end this skid right away because the more it grows, the more it's going, oh, no, we're headed toward another double digits. And you got to get that. You got to quell that now. And they need to do that with a win tonight.
And they also have another little asterisk to avoid tonight that kind of snuck up on me and maybe some others as well. But they've lost 7 in a row on the road in regulation. And the franchise record is 8. So they're in danger, of course, of tying it tonight. It's been done twice before. That would be what's that? No, not this season. This is just straight losses with no points. They have not won a road game since the Seattle game. And they got extra time point the next game, which would have been the LA game, I think, right? Or no, the Anaheim game. Losing track of where they went after
San Jose.
San Jose
on that short travel night.
And then every road game since then they have not gotten a point, believe it or not. So I guess that kind of makes sense looking back on it, but everybody was focused on the winless streak and all that, and then they realized all of a sudden that, hey, we got this little skid here to stop. So that would be another thing to be nice. They don't need to set any more records than we already have this year. So.
Well, we do have breaking news here on the show, too. This just came out that the Flyers have placed defenseman Rasmus Ristolainen on injured reserve with an upper body injury. So, now you're in double digits. Now you're at 10 players that are missing from your NHL roster that can't go. This is crazy.
And so Ristolainen, had missed 2 games back in October before this injury, but tonight Jerry Mayhew was also out from that collision he took into the boards the other day in Detroit. Cut his visor, cut his face open. So with that injury, Mayhew becomes the 11th player, I want to say. I think it's 10 to this point. Yeah, 10 so far. So he becomes the 11th Flyer to miss at least a game this year with an injury. That doesn't count COVID. So 11 different players now have missed at least a game due to an injury, and Ristolainen now with that designation will miss at least 10 games now. He's
That's a 10 gamer. Oh.
So it'll be retroactive.
So this will be game 2.
Yeah, it'll be retroactive. Sorry if you just lost me there. I'll be back in a moment.
So that'll be through the whole homestand, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 8-game homestand coming up. I'm just trying to see when he went on here. I have it.
Did he miss the first Detroit game? I think he did.
Reports. Ristolainen 212. Yeah. So this is his second game. So yeah, he'll miss tonight, obviously, and then he'll miss the entire homestand before he's able to come back from
March
whatever.
10th. Well, that really puts kind of a wrinkle in if you're going to trade him as a deadline guy with an expiring contract too.
It does. I don't think it's as fierce as some of these other guys could be. I don't think the Flyers. I think he's one of the guys the Flyers want to keep. I don't know. If
reports are he doesn't want to extend though. He wants to go to free agency.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's. I suppose that I was going to say. I don't know if they put feelers out for him to see what he wants to do, but I gotta. I gotta think that if I'm in his shoes and I look at the past that I've had and I come here and I have a good year, that if the Flyers are willing to give me anything remotely close to a decent deal, I'm snapping it up.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's certainly not my decision, but I think in terms of who the Flyers want to shop at this deadline, I mean, obviously all the big talks about Giroux. Past that, Martin Jones, Justin Braun, maybe. You forget about Braun. He's got, I believe, over 100 games of playoff experience in his career because he was on all those San Jose teams that went really deep all those years. So he's a guy that, not even if he doesn't play, just have him around the team, hopefully that doesn't affect anything. I don't know what the injury is, but if they do decide they want to move him, if he comes back on the 10th on that first road trip, that gives him, another 10 days to showcase him before the deadline. So maybe they'll be able to make a deal. I don't know.
Yeah, 34 days to the deadline. Adrian Dater, who covers the Avalanche, really plugged-in reporter. He tweeted yesterday that he said, "I'm told that Claude Giroux has made it known to Flyers GM Chuck Fletcher that Colorado is where he wants to go. If somehow that doesn't work out, Minnesota or St. Louis would be acceptable alternatives." And, you kind of get it. You go, okay, Colorado's obvious, right? They don't have a first-round pick, so it would have to be kind of a ready-made prospect in that deal and probably another player, something pretty significant. But Minnesota and St. Louis, Minnesota, Billy Guerin there, and that's a team that looks pretty good, and they may be able to make some noise in the playoffs, especially with an addition of Giroux. And then St. Louis, you obviously have the connection to Craig Berube and Braden Shen. And, could you imagine him setting up Vlad Tarasenko?
That would be a pretty scary prospect, I would imagine. I wonder I wonder how it's been presented. I wonder if it's been, because obviously he's got a no move clause, and the question is he given them a list of places that he will go, or do they want him to get a deal in place and then he says yay or nay? Because if it's the former, then the Flyers have a little bit more leverage because they can go to these three teams
and fight them against each other.
Yeah, exactly. They can figure out, okay, which is going to be, which is going to bring us the biggest return. So, whether or not they're willing to accept maybe a first-round pick from Colorado down the road, I'm not sure. The 23 draft has got a couple of good folks in it too, but overall I don't know the depth of the next two drafts, which one's better.
Well, yeah, the next one, the 23 one, is apparently stacked. They're calling it one of those huge ones where Getzlaf, Perry, and all those guys came out in 03.
Right. So, if that's the case, then maybe they're willing to take a first rounder in 23 instead of 22. That would be probably still whether it's this year or next year, it's going to be a late first rounder, right? The final third.
Yeah, Colorado's going to be good.
So you got to basically look at the drafts and be like, all right, well, if if we take the 23 pick, we're going to get a late, a latter third first round pick in a very deep draft versus this year maybe isn't as deep. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that our folks are all over it. That's for certain. So
yeah, and there were reports Danny Briere was out there scouting the Colorado Avalanche and their AHL affiliate. So we'll see what happens. But those are the three teams that are being reported right now that would be interested in Claude, and that the Flyers could possibly deal with if that is in case a report that is valid, that those are the three teams that he's got on his list right now. So it should be interesting, and it's crazy. He's getting ready to get to 1,000 games, and he's probably not going to see it.
The whole next 4 months for this team is going to be really interesting. And that's the thing too. The Flyers would love to keep him around for his 1,000th game, but if you're Colorado, do you want to wait? If you're Minnesota, do you want to wait, or do you want him sooner than that? I don't know.
Well, yeah, look at what Calgary did. They went out and they got Tyler Toffoli.
Yep.
They traded a first, fifth, a prospect, and Tyler Pitlick to Montreal for Tyler Toffoli. Now, he's got 2 years beyond this on his deal. Very palatable number. And he's also a little bit of insurance in case they lose Johnny Gaudreau in free agency. And he played for Darryl Sutter in Los Angeles. So there's a lot of connection there. So they went early.
Yeah. And, Calgary was not a place I don't think that Claude was going to go anyway. That would be my gut feeling, but who knows?
The no list, all Canadian teams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. All right. So let me see how much time do we got there, Rye? 20 seconds. 20 seconds to air. Oh, Flyers, Penguins. Always fun. Always a little bit more stressful, but always fun. That's for sure. All right. That's right. It is Flyers pregame as the Flyers get set to take on their cross-state rival, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and you couldn't have two teams further apart, even though geographically we're in the same state right now. The Penguins, all of a sudden, Bri, have jumped up to the top of the division. They played a couple more games than the second-place Carolina Hurricanes. That would be 3 more to be exact, but they're a point up, 68 points on the season. How about 6-1-3 in their last 10, and they've won 3 straight coming into this one tonight?
This team, somehow or another, over the years, has always been able to figure out a way to get it done. When it feels like that this team's window has shut, they figure it out and they throw it back open. There's been turnover in the organization. The GM has left.
A couple of them. Shiro to
Rutherford. Then back to Ron Hextall and Brian Burke running things. They have played well, obviously, with Crosby and Malcolm, but they've played practically just as well without them when they've needed to. So you have to give credit to the whole organization, really, coaching staff, the players, just figuring out ways to get it done consistently here. Really for the last 5 years. I mean, for a while there, you were wondering, are they gonna run Sidney Crosby through his career and only win 1 cup? I mean, that would be pretty remarkable. But then they shift gears. Jim Rutherford comes in from Carolina. They get a couple more, and they've been right there knocking on the door ever since.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I look at when you build an NHL team like credit, like a credit card. You go out and you shop, you get nice things, and you trade away first-round picks to win now, and you do it year after year after year. But eventually, when that bill comes in the mail, comes with interest, and it's painful. Their bill hasn't come. They've been dodging the credit card bill collector for years now. So I'm going to stop saying until further notice that they're a team that's just going to drop off because it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, and it's you look at their farm situation. I mean, it's you would think that remember when this started to happen to the Flyers back around 12 years ago or so, and they didn't have a first round pick, I think, for 4 consecutive seasons. There were some years where they didn't pick until the third round. But their farm system is not scraping the bottom of the barrel. It's not great. But the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins are a 500 team right now in the American Hockey League. It's not like they're down there going playing 200 hockey or something like that. They're still a force to be reckoned with in that league, and so they're able to. They've been able to instead of rebuild, recharge when they've needed to. That's the kind of the big thing, and they're able to go out and get pieces like Jeff Carter without necessarily mortgaging the entire future, and they still have. A few more years left here of Crosby, Malkin. Their goaltending. You thought the window was going to start to close when they moved on from Marc-Andre Fleury, and then Matt Murray didn't pan out. Well, then Tristan Jarry all of a sudden around. So as long as they can keep Crosby, Malkin, their goaltending going, they've probably squeezed 3 years out of this already that a lot of folks didn't think they would, and they might still have 2 or 3 years left of it.
I don't think they've won a playoff series though since they won the cup.
That's correct.
Second one of the back-to-back. I mean, they got knocked out in the play-in round in the bubble. So technically they didn't even make the playoffs that year. That would be the first time in a very long time. But they just keep doing it. And they're a team that, for Jarry in particular, Bri, he's going to have to prove it in the playoffs because he was good last year through a big portion of that regular season. But boy, he struggled mightily in the playoffs last year for them. It cost them a round.
Yeah. And again, that's that you look at that overall situation. It's not, it's not a normal year, but it's still a situation where you're trying to figure out exactly how to approach the playoffs and how to handle yourself in that kind of hockey, because it is definitely different hockey than it is otherwise. And prior to the bubble year, where again, the one game they didn't get in on the play-in, but the play-in round for Tristan Jarry, he had not played at the NHL level in the playoffs before that bubble scenario, and even before that, he'd only played 6 games at the professional level. He played in the Western Hockey League, but as far as playoff experience, it was very new to Tristan Jarry. So, that's, again, probably some of the growing pains there. And they don't have a ton of time for growing pains when you're talking about with the way the rest of the team works out. So that's a very interesting variable that they'll have this year.
Well, it's Jarry versus Hart, and those two train together and work out with the same goalie coach back home, Dustin Schwartz. So it'll be those two tonight. Late news coming out that Flyers have placed defenseman Rasmus Ristolainen on the injured reserve with an upper body injury. That'll be retroactive to the first game he missed, which was the other day, the game in Detroit. So no Ristolainen, and boy, it's still a mash unit for this Flyers team. But it's a game tonight where they're going to look to stop the bleeding at 2 games and avoid a third straight loss. And then that starts to creep back in of a pronounced losing skid again for a team that's already had 2 of those. But stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates. Yeah, they're in Pittsburgh at PPG Paints Arena. Yeah, it's Flyers, Penguins, trying to keep Crosby off his 500th NHL goal. Stay tuned. First period and the countdown to faceoffs right after this on the BetRivers.com Flyers Radio Network. All right, stream people, enjoy the game.
Yep, have fun, folks.